Okay, so we will continue from where we left. It is text 18 of the third canto of third chapter. So we had this whole section is about the Uddhava and Vidura. So they both are meeting in the banks of Yamuna, and then by now all the Yadukula is completely finished, and Krishna has left the planet. And at this point in time, Uddhava is also in so much of grief. He's wandering over there, and then Vidura is coming there, and he asked so many questions indirectly. Inquiring about Krishna's welfare and the what is it? The welfare of all the Yaduvamsha. So even though he knew that Krishna had already departed, so still he inquires in this way. No, it is just hoping against the hope. No, what if Krishna is still there, and there is a great deal of disbelief that Krishna has already left the planet. So in that kind of intense mood, he is asking, and then now Uddhava is like describing all the Leela of the Lord. So he described not described, he just remembers all of the Leelas in the Vrindavan. And then now this third chapter is the Leela outside of Vrindavan. So this is like all the other, Krishna's killing different demons and not demons, like conquering different kings, and then Jarasandha's fight and all those things, and then how Krishna married different queens and things like that. So that's the section we are in. So now let's continue. Text 18. Ayajayad dharmasutam ashvamedaistribhir vibhuhu sopi kshmam anujai rakshan reme krishnam anuvratah. The Supreme Lord induced the son of Dharma to perform 3 horse sacrifices, and Maharaj Yudhishthira, constantly following Krishna, the personality of Godhead, protected and enjoyed the earth, assisted by his younger brothers. So the son of Dharma is like Yudhishthira Maharaj. So Kunti Maharani, she begot different children by calling upon different demigods. So in this way, Yudhishthira Maharaj was the son of Dharma. Okay, purport. Maharaj Yudhishthira was the ideal monarchical representative on the earth because he was a constant follower of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. As stated in Vedas, Isha Upanishad, the Lord is the proprietor of the entire manifested cosmic creation, which presents a chance for conditioned souls to revive their eternal relationship with the Lord and thus go back to Godhead back home. So this point we will see in some time. We will be seeing the Brahma's prayers to the creative energy in the third canto itself. So there we will see that how Lord Brahma will be praying to the Lord that his whole purpose of creation is that not to give bodies to the living entities so that they will perform devotional service and go back to the spiritual world. So but then Brahma will say that I have just created, and then the moment the people have got inhabited, immediately they started engaging in sense gratification before even thinking like, no, why I have created, what is the purpose, I have given the scriptures everything, but then they have just gone haywire. So Brahma is like praying like a father, he's praying that like bachche sab barbad ho rahe hain, like so everybody is like going in a different way. So in that way, like Brahma is with a heavy heart, he's actually praying to the Lord. So the purpose of creation is very, very clear. It is for the purpose of developing Krishna consciousness and going back to the spiritual world. So rest everything what we are doing is like just time pass, or just for the maintenance of ourselves and things like that. So we are doing something, but real business is Krishna consciousness. Okay, the whole system of material world is arranged with that program and plan. Anyone who violates the plan is punished by the laws of nature, which is acting by the direction of Supreme Lord. Maharaj Yudhishthira was installed on the throne of the earth as a representative of the Lord. The king is always expected to be representative of the Lord. Perfect monarchy necessitates representation of the supreme will of the Lord, and Maharaj Yudhishthira was the ideal monarch on this supreme principle. So why he's ideal monarch? No, is not just he has to study the scriptures and hear advice of sadhus and do the government. personally Krishna is there and he is guiding. So no, there is what more we can ask of. No, he is the ideal monarchical king. So both the king and the subjects were happy in discharge of worldly duties, and thus protection of the citizens and enjoyment of natural life with full cooperation of material nature followed in the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira and his worthy descendants like Maharaj Parikshit. So here we can see that, like in the sixth canto of Bhagavatam, we see when Indra offends Brahaspati, his spiritual master. So that time he says that anyone who offends or anyone who doesn't treat properly the cows, brahmanas, and the Supreme Lord, no, there is complete destruction of everything. And in the same way, if somebody is taking care of cows, brahmanas, and the Supreme Lord, now if they are worshipping them properly, so then there is so much of opulence, no, like all opulence is there. And here Indra is condemning himself, saying that no, like Brahaspati had come and I didn't respect him properly and he left. So now all my, this one, there is only ruination. Now all my wealth and everything will go for a toss. He could immediately able to sense that. No, and we can see that immediately demons become powerful and then they conquer Indra. So they get to know that no, Indra has offended his spiritual master. No, this is the chance. Like no, we can go and attack. So in this way, this is very important. And Yudhishthir Maharaj, now for him, it is Narada and all other great sages would come to his place, and he would do nice, like he would take care of them nicely. And then Krishna personally comes to his palace. So what else? No, he wants. So then all his this one dynasty was like very flourishing and very nice actually. And text 19, Bhagavan api Vishvatma Loka Veda Patanuga Kamam Sisheva Varvar Varvatyam Asaktaha Sankyam Astitaha. Simultaneously, the personality of God had enjoyed life in the city of Dwaraka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic custom of society. He was situated in the detachment and knowledge and enunciated by the Sankhya system of philosophy. So this is detachment and knowledge. Whenever this two aspects, detachment and knowledge, we talk about, that means like it is Brahma Bhuta stage. No, it is on the spiritual plane. So, and it is enunciated by the Sankhya philosophy. So basically, like, the Supreme Lord was setting a very nice example. All people like who want to live in this world with proper conformity to the Vedic customs. So we can actually study the life of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the Dwaraka. So that's the proper example for common people in general. So otherwise, Krishna's Vrindavan Leela is not to be imitated upon. So that is like he's showing the Leela of Bhagavan. Here he is setting a right example for people, in general. So we should know like what to be emulated and what we should not imitate. So like Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan is like he is God there, and God should be worshipped. And when he is setting an example for us, that should be followed. So we cannot we cannot just interchange and do things like that. Right. So and he was situated in detachment and knowledge. It is, somebody may say like he was sab bhog vilas mein hai. So it is like he was just enjoying all the riches and things like that. But we see in the pastimes of Krishna in the Dwaraka, he was completely detached, and he was definitely like the Supreme Lord. Even a devotee of the Supreme Lord gets detachment and knowledge. What to speak of the Supreme Lord? He definitely has all these things, right? And okay, let's see the purport. While Maharaj Yudhishthira was the emperor of the earth, Lord Sri Krishna was the king of Dwaraka and was known as Dwarakadisha. Like other subordinate kings, he was under the regime of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Although Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme emperor of entire creation, while he was on this earth, he never violated the principles of Vedic injunctions because they are the guide for human life. Regulated human life according to Vedic principles, which are based on the system of knowledge called Sankhya philosophy, is the real way of enjoyment of the necessities of life. Without such knowledge, detachment, and custom, the so-called human civilization is no more than an animal society of eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. The Lord was acting freely as he willed, yet by his practical example, he taught not to lead a life which goes against the principles of detachment and knowledge. So this is a very important principle, that without detachment, nobody can become happy. Without knowledge, nobody can become happy. So it is the happiness, no Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na Saushati na Kankshati. So that particular thing comes. So it is only by the way of detachment and knowledge, no, somebody can actually become happy. Otherwise, it is not possible at all. Happiness means it is possible only in knowledge, no, and like a person in mode of goodness can actually feel happiness in this world. So if there is no mode of goodness, if there is no sufficient illumination of knowledge that is coming from the heart, so then there is only misery that will be there. No, it is people try different things in this world. People want to become very rich, like billionaire and things like that. You see, like everybody is miserable because everybody are either in mode of passion or ignorance. So the mode of goodness actually gives happiness. And one time, like we were taking this particular aspect of we should distribute Krishna consciousness and make people happy. And one person asked that, so many people are not having food, and you are telling that distribute Krishna consciousness. So then, what is the point? So then I told, okay, people who have food, they are also miserable. People who don't have food, they are also miserable. On the contrary, you see our Vaishnava acharyas, like the Goswamis of Vrindavan. So they didn't even have no house to live. No, they were just living under different trees, and they were just hardly they would eat once in 2 days or 3 days. So, but they were the most happiest people in the whole creation. And in fact, whatever literature they wrote, even now people are reading and they are becoming happy. So we can imagine like how much happiness they had in their heart. So this shows that the external situation is not the real this one of happiness. Internally, if we can get the happiness by the way of mode of goodness. So mode of goodness means knowledge. So knowledge means what? Knowledge means essentially to know that we are different from the body. No, we are spirit soul. So that's the essential aspect of knowledge. And if the knowledge is arising, then natural factor of knowledge is detachment. So it is not that somebody is knowledgeable, but he is too attached to material life. It is not possible. If he is knowledgeable, then no, detachment also is there. So generally this word knowledge, what we have been knowing about this word knowledge is like how much we can memorize and how much we can hold in our memory and things like that. And somebody who has got some nice degrees and things like that, or somebody who's scientist and things like that, they are knowledgeable. No, but the Vedic definition of knowledge means knowing the difference between body and soul. So that is the knowledge. So what is matter, what is spirit? So he is able to think in spiritual plane. So then he is called as knowledgeable person. So with knowledge comes detachment, with knowledge comes happiness. So these are the package. So but in the generally like people have this idea that more attachment I have, more enjoyment I have. So but the formula is actually the opposite. More detachment I have, more happiness I have. So more attachment, more misery actually. So one time one devotee was telling that this life is a short life, and then this body is like a boat to cross over the material ocean. And when we are crossing over the material ocean, more attachment we have, like more stones we put on the boat, and doobne ka bahut chances. So it actually can what is that? It can actually sink into the ocean of material existence. So happy life means very light life. So we have another example that is given is that if we are traveling in a train, we all know that the destination is going to come, and we have to get down. And when we are supposed to get down, so there if we take furniture and this and that and fill up the compartment, then it'll not be a very good idea actually. So all of us know, like, we are just traveling, and we will get down at certain point in time. So when the bodily conception becomes more, where we think that I'm going to live forever, and this is my body, and this is the all the related bodies are there, and then this is the whole life, and this is all. When I think this is all, so that is when the whole complexity comes. Where I'm not able to see on the spiritual plane. So then everything seems to be very difficult in the life, because I know that every single thing I possess, no, I will have to lose. No, more I get attached to, more like what is that? Like more I'm signing up agreements saying that okay, no, iske liye dukh bohunga, iske liye dukh bohunga, iske liye bhi dukh bohunga, you know. And I'm just like, so I'm just listing down more and more items where no, I have to lose all those things at certain point in my in time in my life. So in that way, like lesser the material attachment, more better the happiness, no, of a person. So we have to identify the spiritual relationships and develop spiritual relationships, and that will give more happiness in life, right? So okay, so here definition of knowledge is again given here. mm, okay, knowledge means to know that the mission of human life is to end all miseries of material existence, and that in spite of having to fulfill the bodily necessities in a regulated way, one must be detached from such animal life. Fulfilling the demands of the body is fulfilling the demands of the body is animal life, and fulfilling the mission of spirit soul is human mission. So like we should try to base our life based on the human mission, and whatever no, we are also, what is it, animal in one sense, like we have to also like no take care of the animalistic propensities whichever is there, like eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So without eating we'll die, no. So it's all the basic animalistic tendencies, no, that is there, that also has to be taken care of, no, in a regulated way, in a proper regulated way it has to be done. So if you see, no, for example, animals, so they are quite regulated. So if there is a pond in the forest, we know like exactly we can time. This is the time the tigers will come and they will drink water. This is the time elephants will come and they'll drink. This is the time the deers will come and they'll drink water. And they're very, very regulated. And only when tiger becomes hungry, no, he will come in an unregulated time and hunt. And that is also based on regulation only, right? So everything is regulated. No, I often recollect this thing. I'm still searching that article. So long back, I read one ecologist. No, he had kind of written that this one key, the whole ecosystem of the world is perfect, perfect, and it will go on without any disturbance and with proper balance, without any climatic changes and everything. It can go on very nicely. Only problem is human beings. So human beings spoil the whole ecosystem. So this has many things to learn. Actually, this says a lot of things. We don't have anything to contribute to the ecosystem. No, we don't have anything to contribute to the ecosystem. Like the whole world will function perfectly well without the human beings. So we are meant for spiritual advancement. So when we try to meddle around with the ecosystem, no, because of us, all the other animals, everyone suffers actually. So now because of our industrialism and all this, this one, every time we exploit the nature, no, every time like all the animals, the birds, many times this Discovery Channel, these people show that how many birds are going to some places and they're just dying over there. So why? Because like we are exploiting the nature, and the whole nature becomes imbalanced. And recently, like some news, somebody was, some short clip they sent because of this lockdown and things like that. So many dolphins and so many birds and all these, they're all very happy. They're all nicely there having their time. So in this way, we can see that we don't have anything to contribute to this world. No, this world will, even in fact, if we don't do anything to this world, the world will go very nicely. So only our intervention into this worldly things creates all the problems. So we are meant for spiritual advancement, and that should be focused, right? Okay, so text 20. Snigdha smitavalokena vacha piyusha kalpaya charitrena na vadyena Sriniketana Chatmana. He was there in his transcendental body, the residence of goddess of fortune, with his usual gentle and sweetly smiling face, his nectarian words, and his flawless character. So Sri Niketana means like, Niketan means like house, right? Sri Niketana means like the Lord's house is the residence of goddess of fortune, right? So that's the place where goddess of fortune resides. So, okay, purport. In the previous verse, it is described that Lord Krishna, being situated in the truths of Sankhya philosophy, is detached from all kinds of matter. In the present verse, it is described that he is the residence of goddess of fortune. So, okay, he is the residence of goddess of fortune. So, like the Srivatsa symbol that is there, the three white hairs in the chest of Lord Vishnu. So, that is the residence of that's where Lakshmi ji is situated. So now we see that he is the residence of goddess of fortune. These two things are not at all contradictory. Lord Krishna is detached from the variegatedness of the inferior nature, but he is in eternal blissful enjoyment of the spiritual nature, of his internal potency. So, in fact, Krishna is the real enjoyer. Bhoktaram ekna tapasham. Like, so whenever we present this philosophy, and then many times we faced Christian people confronting us, and then other people also confront us saying that no, what is this, you people are wearing this saffron, and then you people don't get married and things like that. Your Krishna itself like married so many people and things like that. So then the natural answer is that no, see, Krishna is the enjoyer. No, Krishna is the ultimate enjoyer. He is enjoying, that is good. No. So like we are meant to serve him in his enjoyment. So that's this one. So we should not become envious of Krishna why he is enjoying. So we should not become envious of Krishna. So it is actually everything that exists in this world is meant for his enjoyment and his pleasure, and it should be offered for his pleasure. So that's this one. That's the spiritual understanding. So like detachment. So it is detachment from the material things. So obviously, like Lord doesn't have anything to do with the material things. No, he exists in the spiritual plane. And this is also a very nice thing. We can, as preachers or as people who are distributing the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, we can also take it that Krishna comes here to save the people in general, and he doesn't step onto the materialism. He stays on a spiritual plane and he enjoys the spiritual bliss, and then he's inviting everyone to come and taste the spiritual bliss. He's not going and telling that, okay, I'll get onto the material plane and I'll catch these people and come. No, like Krishna is always in the spiritual plane, and Krishna is just attracting everyone to the spiritual plane, right? So that's the nice this one we can see that. So we should, as people who are distributing the message of Krishna consciousness, first we should we should be completely surcharged with Krishna consciousness. We should enjoy the bliss of Krishna consciousness within our heart. So then we can actually attract people to the lotus feet of Krishna. So one who has a poor fund of knowledge cannot understand this distinction between the external and internal potencies. In Bhagavad Gita, the internal potency is described as the para prakriti. In Vishnu Purana, also the internal potency of Vishnu is described as para prakriti. So the Lord is never detached from the association of para prakriti. This para shakti and her manifestations are described in the Brahma Samhita as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavithabis Dabihi. The Lord is eternally joyful and cognizant in the taste derived from such transcendental bliss. Negation of variegatedness of the inferior energy does not necessitate negation of positive transcendental bliss of the spiritual world. Therefore, Lord's gentleness, his smile, his character, and everything related to him are all transcendental. Such manifestations of internal potency are the reality of which the material shadow is only a temporary representation from which everyone with proper knowledge must be detached, right? So the real reality is in the spiritual world, and the more we try to access this material world, no, it is going to be frustration only. So there is this what is that? One devotee gave a very nice example. This material world is like this. No, it's like a nice mango is kept on the table, and you find it, okay, this will be really, really very tasty, and you just take it, and your mouth is watering and everything is like, all emotions are there, and when you try to bite it, it is you understand it's a rubber mango. So you will not get the taste of it. So like that, the material nature, it has the forms and features of all the objects, but nothing has any reality. Everything is made of matter, earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? So everything is shaped up in nice forms, but then actually it cannot give any bliss. So people are trying so much they are trying. Puna puna charvita charvananam. So there is no juice inside it. So the real factor that is going to give the pleasure is Krishna. And then you remove Krishna and you make any form, and then you try to have this one. What is it? People have what is it? Dogs to maintain, and people have what is it? Nice, beautiful, artistic things, and then people have so many different hobbies and things like that. But if we remove Krishna from the center, and then we try to enjoy any material things, it is going to be like after some time it is going to be frustrating. So it is not going to be happy all the time. In the material world, the happiness is, I am going to get something happy. Now I'm going to get something and it is going to make me happy. That anticipation is going to give me happiness. And then one devotee was telling, like he's from IIT, was telling that, when we were selected that we will get into IIT, we were so happy. Like, we are just going into. And after we landed up there, 1 month the happiness lasted. Then after so much of syllabus, so much of examinations and things like that, that is also okay. But then whoever I see around is IIT only. Like, there is no difference between me and the other person. So then where is the happiness? So then the whole happiness is gone, right? So after 1 month, 2 months, it's the whole happiness is gone. So then it's the material happiness is that, okay, you have something lesser than me and I have something better than you. And that is when that delta is what is going to give happiness. And how long we will keep doing the delta. And suddenly the neighbor gets something nice. Uska delta banane ke liye, like again we have to struggle very hard. And then even after struggling, some other person is better than us. Some other person is better than us. How much we can actually fight with all these things? It is very, very difficult to fight with all these things. So we just have to get detached from this world. I don't have anything to compete with anyone in this world. You have something better, raklo, no problem. So I don't have anything to do with this one. So that is why, what is that? People generally see that whenever they see a sadhu, they say like, okay, aap to khushi hai, aap to khushi mein hai, you are very happy, So though for their own happiness, they will always do this delta, this person has this and I don't have, and this person has this, I don't have. But when they see a sadhu, he doesn't have anything, and they say, no, aap to khushi mein hai. So it is that is very much, very much evident. So more detached we are from this world, more we will become happy, right? So today we will stop here. So I've come to Deepak Prabhu's house for he has kindly invited me for lunch, so I've come here. So and we have some discussions to have. So we will stop here today for today's discussion. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.